Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Daily Thread.
It's a new week.
Nice to be back here.
Yes, beautiful morning in New York.
It is pretty nice.
Yeah, it's not cold yet. It's almost December. It's Kislev.
We're hanging on.
Sure.
We're hanging on.
Summer and fall is hanging on. They don't want to let go.
Yeah.
To winter. They don't want to give in to winter.
These Monday episodes are always difficult because there's so much that happens over the weekend. And what do we choose to cover? So we decided last night in our WhatsApp status to put out a little bit of a feeler to see what people want us to discuss and what they don't want us to discuss.
Okay.
And the consensus was please don't talk about anti-Semitism or Donald Trump. That was the consensus, which I hear. You know, it's a little bit, just a lot. And I'm noticing for the first time in my life really how much anti-Semitism there is out there because we're trying to cover those stories.
Don't mention that.
Yeah, I can't say the A word.
Let me say on that subject, let me just interject and say that there's a story in today's Wall Street Journal about when did the election campaigns stop? They never stop. It's such good news in terms of getting people addicted to the whole idea of running for office. And here we just had a midterm election, and now we're talking about a presidential election that's not going to happen for 23 months. Enough already. Enough of the election frenzy. How about political leaders that are elected? How about going about the idea of leading and allowing the people to live their lives?
It's a good point, but that's politics. Like that's just how it works.
Yeah, we don't have to pay attention to it, but I guess we have to pay attention to it.
Maybe do you want to not pay attention to it?
I can't. I can only talk for myself. It's difficult for me not to pay attention to it. You know.
So today we're not going to pay attention to it. But today we're going to discuss some other thing that's going on in the world. Firstly, you know, just to get to some headlines that we have, the World Cup, very interesting stuff going on. The U.S. is playing Iran tomorrow. Is it Iran or Iran?
I think it's pronounced properly Iran.
Who knows? Anyways, I think tomorrow at 1 p.m. the U.S. is playing Iran, and
right.
It's like so interesting because Iran obviously wants to, you know, destroy America and Israel and America's allies politically, but we're gonna go ahead and play a soccer match versus each other.
Well, you know, it's not really the U.S. against Iran because. It's really the corrupt, dictatorial Iranian leadership that is the struggle with the United States. So it's not even U.S. versus Iran. The Iranian people would love to be free of the oppression that they live under and be able to live free, but they can't.
So those soccer players, you think they're ever going to go back to Iran?
Well, I know I didn't study it, but I caught we mentioned it a minute ago that they haven't been singing the national anthem as a way of protesting solidarity with the protesters.
Yeah, there's no way they plan on going back.
There's protests in the street of Iran. You know, there's protests now if you watch the news in the streets of China. You know, but it's the dictators in both China and Iran. And I even heard this morning that in North Korea. Kim Jong-un is introducing his 10-year-old daughter as the future leader of North Korea. He has 3 small children, and she's the oldest. And this is such a joke that he believes that the people are going to buy into the fact that the future leader after him is a 10-year-old girl right now. And you know what? You were thinking on the surface that's pretty ridiculous, right? But they better believe it, otherwise he's going to kill them.
It's true. Very interesting. But what's up with him? Rocket Man.
Well, I don't know how I don't know the structure of a dictatorship, but I know from what I've read over the years that you have a strong man, like you have Bashar Assad in Syria, for example, and he controls all the money, and he controls the flow of oil. He's partners with Putin and the Russians. He has an air force that his brother runs. He has a navy, which is all the ships and the aircraft carriers that his brother-in-law runs, and the people that are not related to him get paid millions of dollars. So they got pretty good jobs. So they want to make sure they do what the boss wants.
I hear that. I'm not going to say that.
That's how And the same thing is true of China, and the same thing is, how do you get the people to oppress so many people?
I don't know.
And the same thing is true of China. The same thing is true of Iran, as North Korea. That's we've mentioned on this program. I remember saying it, that the majority of the world lives under these dictatorships. The 7 billion people in the world, and about 5 billion live in these types of countries and these types of societies where there's never an election, where their future is determined. They're given food by the government. They're educated by the government, and the government educates them, with the information they want to know. You know how TikTok works. The TikTok in China is not like the TikTok in the United States.
Regulated. Anyways, another headline that I have here is building train and subway stations in Bene Brak.
Yes.
Is that happening?
Well, the negotiations between Israel's upcoming Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, it's a unique situation because he's the past Prime Minister and also the future Prime Minister, which seems to be the case for the last 10 or 15 years or more. And there's a tug of war, there's a give and take over what the different parties want to join his governing coalition. He's going to have a strong government when they finally agree to all the different points. So two of the points that I read about over the weekend was the United Torah Judaism, which is a Haredi party, as you know.
The UTJ.
UTJ. One of the things they want is a train system in Bene Brak, because it's very difficult to get around Bene Brak.
People complaining there? Speaking of Bene Brak, you know what I saw in Shabbos?
Oh, yeah, you told me. He was in my house last night.
I didn't tell you.
He told me. He was in my house last night. Our good friend Matisyahu Lesman.
I was in shul.
He went back to Israel last night.
Unbelievable. I didn't even recognize him. He was trying to talk to me in Yiddish, and I don't speak Yiddish.
Yeah, I said to him last night, how did you communicate with Nachi? You don't speak any English. He doesn't speak any Yiddish or Hebrew. He said, son, how you communicated?
He said the name Lesman. I'm like, oh. I was in your apartment.
You've been in his house.
Yeah.
He came to our house last night with his daughter before he went to the airport to go back to Israel. And he lives next door to the Letterman Shul, where he used to always take us in to see Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And we're going back Hanukkah, and we have some other plans. We're drawing up Plan B. We got at a cave of Reb Chaim and a few other places that he suggested that we have in mind. So he told me that he did see you. And we were talking about UTJ. So there's a train.
Bene Brak, yeah.
There's a train being built around the periphery of Bene Brak, but there's a problem with transportation within the city. Okay, so the government, as part of their concessions to the new government, and they're spending billions of dollars anyway, they agreed they would accommodate the demand for a transportation system by train in Bene Brak, but the UTJ they want a concession from the government that there'll be no building on Shabbos, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But the transportation people and the Likud say that the equipment that's being used has to be used 7 days a week in order to be successful. It can't be shut down. If it's shut down, it creates all kinds of different problems.
It takes time starting up again.
So they want to be able to work 7 days a week.
Problematic.
And the powers that be in Bnei Brak don't want them working 7 days a week.
No trains.
So what are you supposed to do?
Get a bike.
Well, I mean, they're going to build a train, but I don't know. They say should be Kim Katza River de Vasa. You know what that means?
I do not.
If a cat is on one side of the river and wants to get to the other side of the river, and the cat doesn't swim, how does he get to the other side of the river?
Yeah.
You got to figure out a way. The same thing here in Bnei Brak. You got to figure out a way to do this.
Speaking of Bene Brak, we got a piece of feedback to our daily thread phone. Which,
from Bnei Brak?
Not from, I don't think it's from Bene Brak, but speaking of Israel, which just a reminder, if you're not signed up yet to the Daily Thread on WhatsApp status, make sure to go ahead and sign up. The link is in the description. We're posting content all day, and I'm telling you, you will enjoy it. If not, we'll give you your money back. It's free though, so
take it over. We're taking over the world a little bit, one day at a time.
A little bit at a time. Okay, so where is this? Okay, so in response to like people saying, "Oh, don't speak about anti-Semitism. We don't want to hear about it." So someone said, "Okay, so speak about making Aliyah if you don't want to hear about anti-Semitism." Okay. It's time for American Jewry to accept that it's game over. There's much more to Yiddishkeit than smoked meat and charcuterie boards with a "Thank You Hashem" sticker on the Saran wrap.
Oh, that's a low blow.
To who?
I don't know. To people that whose religion
The
is
people who like
charcuterie.
charcuterie? Or thank you, Hashem? Which one?
I don't know. People whose religion is charcuterie and whatever else they were referring to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, what are you still doing here?
Listen, it's
You don't want to make. Why haven't you made Aliyah yet?
It's very complex.
Why is it complex?
I'm here because you're here.
Oh, really? I'm here because you're here.
No, listen. I know people that made Aliyah because their kids were in Eretz Yisrael. You know, you're young people. You know, you're adults. You're married. You have your own kids. You can make an independent decision. We don't have to.
Why haven't you?
We don't have
you
to
love
have,
Israel.
We don't have to have a group hug. I think it's
Kumbaya.
I think part of it. I think it's a complex issue, and I think it's part of what your orientation is, and I think part of the problem is that it's Israel's fault. I think also.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Nefesh B'Nefesh does great
Miraculous
work.
over here.
No, Nefesh B'Nefesh does great work, and since they existed, I don't know, it was the last 30 years. They've taken over 30,000 people.
Why? What makes you say that it's Israel's fault?
Because Israel markets itself to people like us from a tourist point of view. You know, a sale, it was a Black Friday sale on El Al tickets. You know, there's a sale in the hotels after January 1st when it becomes off season.
Okay, I don't know where you're going with this yet.
Well, they're not talking to us about coming to live in Eretz Yisrael. They're talking to us about
coming to visit, be a tourist.
Coming to visit, be a tourist, fly over, visit here, go to the Isha Rebo concert in the Sultan's Pool. You know, visit the Carmel Shuk in Tel Aviv.
They're not pushing enough. Buy an apartment. Buy places. You're saying like.
I don't know. I mean. I'm just saying that that's your
taste.
That's my orientation that I have, and I'm not saying that it's all Israel's fault. I'm not blaming anybody.
Well,
that's the experience. That's what I absorbed and what I saw, what I absorbed from my parents. They went to Eretz Yisrael every year from 1964 up
times
to
have changed.
1989.
That was before 67. I mean, so much has changed since then.
No, they went from 64. They went for the first time in 1964. I remember 1960. My father loved taking videos, but there was no videos yet. It was film, 8mm film, and he had a camera and he took movies in. In 1964, before the 6-Day War, one of the rabbis in Yerushalayim took him up to a roof of a school, where if you leaned out the window and someone held you so you don't fall down, you were able to see a little glimpse of the Har Bayis. And he took a video of that. We were able to see.
You have that
Har
video?
Bayis I think my brother Benjamin probably has it. He preserved all these things.
Oh, we got to get that.
But the orientation was the hotels and the airfare and going away for 10 days or 2 weeks or a month.
So when we had Isha Rebo on the Meaningful People podcast less than a year ago, something that he said towards the end, he did a tour last year, Lo Shiva Baita, and the call was for people to come home.
Yeah.
Moved to Eretz Yisrael, and he called on employers in America to make it easy for your employers to work from Israel for your companies. Meaning, tell them like you could move to Israel, you'll get paid the same, and we'll accommodate and we'll work with you. I saw there's like this stuff on LinkedIn, maybe like, employees in Israel, hire someone in Israel, pay 10% less, and people who made Aliyah weren't happy with that because like why should they pay less for someone who lives in Israel? But maybe we should be thinking about like if you want to move to Israel, like take away the excuses. That's the sort of Isha said. We have to take away all the materialistic obstacles like, oh well, Parnassa. Well no, you can keep your job. Move there and you can keep your job. Obviously if someone's working as a salesperson in a suit store or something, obviously you can't do that. But if you're working a desk job, if you're working even as an accountant, like you can make the move and keep your job. It takes away a big obstacle.
Israel's not far away anymore. I do still meet people that haven't been in Israel in 10, 15, 20 years. And I said to them, it's like the easiest thing to do. You go over to JFK, which is 12 minutes from here, and you sit down in the terminal, and then you get up, you walk onto the plane, you sit down again for 10 hours, eat a couple of meals, and next thing you know, you're in.
But people have kids, people have work, people have. What do you mean? It's not always easy. What are someone supposed to do? They have 5, 6 kids, all under the age of 14. They have work. They have different schedules. They have carpools. Like they can't just get up and go.
It's very like I said, there's no simple solution. It's very complicated.
But
and the question is not only on us here in New York or in the United States. The question is on Jews in the
all over the world,
areas of the world. Some which are not as convenient or as comfortable.
Yeah, just because you live in Chicago or Baltimore doesn't mean you're exempt from making that Aliyah move.
What about people in Toronto? Toronto's got a crazy government with a prime minister. You never know when they're going to crack down on you.
Sure, but
people
it's not like our
chased. People couldn't go to school for 2 years in places like Montreal. And but people stay there and they're building those communities. The people that work on drawing people to Aliyah, they have a taina. They have a complaint against places like Lakewood, for example, that are building larger and larger Torah communities. Why are you doing
You're getting
that?
too settled here, you're saying?
Why don't you, if you're raising that kind of money, why don't you put your resources into Eretz Yisrael that you cherish and that you love and that you're always focused on? Why are you building up New Jersey?
Why are you building up temporary homes?
So why are you building up New Jersey? That's the question. Why? And the question's not on the average guy that goes to work, that has a car and has a wife and 2 or 3 kids, and there's a young man. The question is, why is the leadership leading us in that direction?
We'll get back to that conversation in just a second. I want to just say, speaking of this, there's a Cyber Monday sale for nonstop flights to Tel Aviv from El Al from $6.99. That's $6.99. You go ahead and book right now. Cyber Monday sale, nonstop flights to Tel Aviv. The link is in the description and show notes. Hit that link, get that discount, and you can be living what we're talking about right now, which is going to Eretz Yisrael. Maybe even book a flight that's one way. That's cheaper,
wow.
and you'll be happier on the other side. But I mean, like, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough.
I'm listening to these programs after you edit them and put them up online. We say I don't know a lot.
Well, I think that's the most important sentence in the English. That's the most important sentence in the English dictionary. I don't know.
There's a lot of things that we just don't know. But I mean, we're here, and people are looking for something other than I don't know.
Okay, so here, listen up.
What's the next level? I don't
listen
know.
up, people. Book your flight to Israel, or at least pack a bag and say, "This is for when I'm going to Israel forever." I don't know. Do people? I don't know. Again,
I know plenty of people that moved to Israel, make their home there. My friend Shmuel Katz moved 12 years ago. I know a lot of people that just made a decision. They're going and they went.
I know a family from Staten Island. His name is Ali Walbram. A couple years ago, I remember he said, "We're moving to Israel in July," and like a couple of other friends were like, moving to Israel, please. And he picked up. He has 3 kids. They have one set of them are twins, so 2 of them were in seminary, in yeshiva. And he moved to Israel. He lives in Ramat Beit Shemesh. He has a job here still, and he works nights.
He commutes back and forth.
He comes back maybe I think once a month or twice a month, something like that. But he's living a life there in Ramat Beit Shemesh. It's not easy. It's not easy to make the move. It's not an easy move, but it's sure as heck seems like it's worth it.
It's just it's a much different culture. Something you have to get used to. The look. When I come home from Israel and I get into a taxi, or you pick me up from the airport,
or Yankee Geller picks you up.
Yankee Geller from Preferred Car and Limousine Service. Your eyes have to adjust to the look. It's just different than Yerushalayim, and Yerushalayim is so much different than Tel Aviv. But it takes courage. It takes courage, and we had a writer. One of our writers went as a reporter on the August Nefesh B'Nefesh flight, and he met a guy that he knows. I think he's from Muncie.
Okay.
He met a guy with his wife and 4 kids on the flight, and he asked him what he's going to be doing in Israel. He says, he's been working remotely for 2 years, so he didn't tell his employer that he's making Aliyah. He's just going to continue working remotely, and at some point, if he has to come in, he'll come in. But meantime, nobody's bothering him about coming in. He hasn't been in the office. I know other guys that haven't been in their office for going on 3 years.
That's funny.
So you can live anywhere in the world. You can move to Paris. You can move to Los Angeles. You can move to Yerushalayim, Beit Shemesh, and just do your work.
That's true.
We could record this from anywhere in the world.
We definitely can.
We don't have to be here in Cedarhurst, do we?
Should we make this move?
We're all here. You know why we're all here? We're all here because we're all here.
Well, it's our grandparents' fault. because they decided to settle here. Had they gone, you would have been there, then I would have been there, and then we all would have been there.
Your grandparents? You mean my parents?
Yeah.
Well, don't forget their parents. Their parents escaped Europe. They had a different. They
couldn't go to Israel?
They had a different motivation. Some members of the family actually went to Israel, but they have a different motivation. Don't forget, you can't compare your lifestyle and the things that motivate you to 2 generations ago, when they were in their European towns and they were in trouble.
Yeah.
Their life was in danger and they had to get out.
That's true. Listen, it's food for thought. It's food for thought to think about making that move, making Aliyah. Another story we have here is a 62-year-old man who was seriously injured on Wednesday, November 23rd in the bombings in Yerushalayim reported to his doctors and guests at the Shari Tzedek Medical Center that his life had been saved in part due to the Tehillim, which was in his pocket when the explosion occurred. While he was injured by the blast and several fragments of shrapnel from the bomb, he later discovered that one potentially lethal fragment had penetrated the rear cover of the book of Tehillim he was carrying. The fragment made its way all the way through the pages of the book before coming to a full stop at verse 7 of chapter 124. The verse read, Nafshenu Kitsipor Nimlata Mipach Yokshim Hapach Nishbar Anachnu Nimlatnu. Our soul has escaped like a bird evading the grasp of his captors. The grasp is broken and we have escaped. And the shrapnel went through that page and his life was saved.
Well, it's a very beautiful story, and God works in mysterious ways, as we discovered many, many times on a daily basis. And like I've said before, Nachman Kahana says that if you think you understand God, if you think you discover what God is, He's not that.
Yeah,
He's something else.
Another headline: Israeli basketball player Denny, I don't even know how to say his name. Denny Avida. He's a Jewish Israeli basketball player.
In the NBA.
He's on the Washington Wizards, I believe. And he spoke to some fans after the game, and this is what he had to say.
So I just want to say that sometimes I'm away from home, away from friends, away from family. And, sometimes it can be a little lonely, especially in the U.S. And just coming to the games and see you guys and see Hebrew and see the shirts and see the flags, that brings me a moment of joy. So don't ever stop. I'm always be Israeli. I'm always going to support Israel.
So that's like really nice to see from an NBA player, to say that he's always going to support Israel. He's always going to be Israeli. And you have, every time he plays, you have fans with Israeli flags in the crowd. Omri Caspi is, retired from the NBA. He was previously the NBA Israeli player.
We have Amari Stoudemire, who converted to Judaism.
Yeah, but he's no longer in the league. So now we have an Israeli. So shout out to him for taking that stance publicly. Another weird story that took place in the Five Towns the other day for Rockaway is a man was walking the streets with a machete, and he went over to a few yeshiva bachrim,
right,
and he said to them, "Hey, where's the local synagogue?"
Right.
This man has not been caught yet.
Well, are you going to show the video? Because if you show the video,
yeah, I'll show the video.
You can see the machete hanging from his belt.
Okay, one second.
And he's walking down the street very
I'll show it right now.
This guy just came over to me and said, "Do you know who the synagogue of Satan is in the Bible?"
He's walking down the street very nonchalantly with the machete hanging from his belt. He has these 2 boys. I think it was near Roosevelt Court, which I think is near Yeshiva Far Rockaway.
Yeah, somewhere. Like that.
And I don't know. They called the police. And they called the Rockaway Nassau Security Patrol, and they saw the man walk into a building in Far Rockaway. And according to the people I spoke to at the RNSP, the police didn't want to go into the building to pursue him.
Why is that?
Because he didn't commit a crime.
That's not a crime.
He didn't do anything. He was walking in the street with a machete. It's not even a concealed weapon. The crime is
maybe you're saying maybe he's going to cut a big piece of challah somewhere.
The crime is when you're hiding a weapon. That's a little bit of a crime, a concealed weapon. But you're walking. That's why a pistol is illegal. But if you're walking around with a long gun, a rifle, you're not violating the law.
Interesting. It reminds me. So
The way last I spoke this morning to Shulam Klein from RNSP, and he said the police are waiting for him to come out of the building.
hide and seek. Very.
I don't know. Maybe left through the back door.
Maybe.
Maybe climbed down through a window.
Maybe.
Who
It's
knows where
funny.
he is?
I read over the weekend that the wives of the MK members got together, and many of them were wearing head coverings because there are a lot of religious families part of the new government, and the only one that wasn't wearing a head covering was Sarah Netanyahu.
Okay.
And next to Sarah Netanyahu was standing Itamar Ben Gvir's wife,
Okay.
who had a holster
Right.
for her pistol, and she was, I guess, criticized for it, and she responded like, "I live in Hebron my entire life. My husband is the most threatened person in Israel. I need to be ready to protect myself." Interesting.
Well, they live in Kiryat Arba, and I remember I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I remember someone took me to a pistol range where the women from the settlement communities were taking target practice. Guns have to be used responsibly, and when you live in a dangerous neighborhood, it's not a bad idea to arm yourself in a responsible way.
Another story over here is from Ben Verlander on Twitter. This is amazing. The Japanese fans cleaning up their own trash and others at the World Cup. Number one, the Japanese is the cleanest country that this guy has ever seen, and everyone is so kind and selfless. This is a tradition at the World Cup. Yet it's not surprising at all. I'll show the video right over here. I feel like that's something Yeshiva Bakram would do also, no?
It's all in the training. It's all in the training.
really nice.
You know,
It's
when you
beautiful.
when you go into a restaurant, I mean, you go into a fast food place, you always have that uncertainty about whether you have to clean your own table up or not, or someone's going to clean it up for you.
I think it's always the safe bet. It's to clean your own table.
Well, it's certainly the courteous, the nice thing to do to clean your own table, not to leave it for somebody else to do. But I think
Shout out to the Japanese.
if you're paying $5 for a slice
Chachma
of
b'gayim
pizza,
time, and we can learn from everybody, yeah? That's a
but
beautiful
you're paying
thing.
$5 for a slice of pizza, then $3 for a Snapple. You might have a good rationale why someone else should clean up for you.
Maybe. But it's very nice of them, and maybe we should take a page out of their book. I'm going to be in Madison Square Garden tonight for a Ranger game.
Oh, really?
Maybe I'll clean up after myself.
How are the Rangers doing? Not doing so
Rangers
well.
are not doing too great. They're like losing games they should be winning. They took a step back. Last year they were better.
Just like a lot of yarmulkes in the Garden, right? Usually.
I think there'll be a lot of yarmulkes tonight in the Garden. I don't know why.
Tonight, Dafka. I mean, who are they playing tonight? Anyone know
They're
who
playing the New Jersey Devils tonight.
Oh, so that's the local. That's the local.
But tonight is a stand up for cancer night at the Garden, and myself, Nissan, my brother, and a couple other friends are going. We have a friend who had cancer, and we're going to. Baruch Hashem, he kicked it, and he's thriving,
great.
and we're going in support of him.
That's great.
They're doing a beautiful tribute there, and so that's not that I need an excuse to go to a Ranger game.
Oh, the
But
next.
I told my wife, listen, I have to go.
That's right. You're going for your friend.
I'm going against cancer.
The Knicks aren't doing so great either. They just don't have it. They just don't.
It's the life of a Yid. We root for these teams that just disappoint us year after year.
Look at the Jets yesterday. That guy.
Look at that. Mike White.
He played like a professional quarterback, not
You
like
kind of knew that
like
was
a high
gonna
school quarterback.
Kind of knew that was going to happen, though.
That usually happens with the Jets. They bring a third stringer in, and he becomes a superstar. They're going
Yeah,
to.
but it kind of begs the question: how come the coach Robert Saleh didn't bring him in at halftime against New England last week?
I don't know. They like sticking with their starters.
Yeah, well, you know what? Lavernius Coles, an ex-wide receiver of the New York Jets, he said on record, this move makes sense if they never plan on going back to Zach Wilson again, because the Jets just told their fan base, we messed up on another early pick on a quarterback.
So what do they do going forward for the rest of the season?
I think Zach Wilson I think it's the last time we saw him play in a Jets jersey.
Really? So
Ever.
I mean, the guy I just heard this morning.
He'll be working for ESPN in 2 years doing analysis.
I was parking my car. He went 22 for 27, something like that.
I think he went 22 for 28.
He
Yeah,
for 300 over
300 yards.
Jet quarterbacks don't do that.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. He did a great job, and he has Jet fans excited about football and going into December. And when was the last time we watched competitive football in December?
We'll have to keep an eye on him.
Exactly. The last time many Jews were in MetLife Stadium for something meaningful was the Sima Shas. But now it'll be some football games. Not as meaningful, but you know what I mean. Anyways, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Thread on WhatsApp status. If you have any questions about advertising rates, you can go ahead and message the WhatsApp account. The link is in the description. If you want to email us, you can email thedailythread@meaningfulminute.org. That's thedailythread@meaningfulminute.org. And we will see you again tomorrow with another episode. Have a great day.
Have a great day.